owns the Nile River? Is it Egypt, the ancient kingdom that has depended on the Nile for thousands of years? Or is it Ethiopia, the land where over 85% of the Nile's water actually begins? This is not just a question of water. It's more than just a river. The Nile is a lifeline, a source of survival, a symbol of power, and a witness to thousands of years of history. But today, it's also the center of a growing conflict between Ethiopia and Egypt. Who truly owns its waters? Who has the right to control its future? This is a story of pride, politics, and a river that could shape the destiny of a continent. Welcome to the land of origins. Ethiopia versus Egypt, the battle over the Nile. The Nile is the longest river in the world, and for Egypt, it is everything: food, farming, and even identity. Over 90% of Egypt's population lives along the Nile. Without it, there is no Egypt. That's why for decades, Egypt has claimed exclusive rights to most of its water. But here's the twist: most of that water doesn't come from Egypt. It comes from the Ethiopian highlands, specifically the Blue Nile. Ethiopia contributes around 85% of the Nile's water. Yet for centuries it received nothing in return. No control, no benefit, no recognition. But in 2011, everything changed. Ethiopia started building the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or GERD, a massive hydropower project meant to transform Ethiopia's economy. To Ethiopia, GERD is a symbol of national pride. To Egypt, it's a threat. So why does Egypt claim ownership over the Nile? Well, it actually goes back to colonial-era treaties. In 1929 and again in 1959, agreements were signed that gave Egypt the lion's share of the Nile water, while, completely ignoring Ethiopia. Those treaties were signed by British-controlled Sudan and Egypt, without Ethiopia's presence. And today, Ethiopia says, those agreements are outdated. We were never part of them. They mean nothing to us. So who really owns the Nile? Is it Egypt, which has historically used it, or Ethiopia, which naturally feeds it? The answer isn't simple. Egypt argues for historical rights. Ethiopia argues for natural justice. And the rest of Africa? Well, many are siding with Ethiopia, saying colonial water laws must be rewritten. Have you noticed that Egypt does not talk much with Ethiopia directly? Instead, Egypt tries to be friends with countries near Ethiopia, like Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Somalia. Why does Egypt do this? One reason is history. In the past, Egypt had more control over the Nile. Egypt thinks the Nile belongs to them because of old times. If Egypt talks to Ethiopia, it means things might change. Egypt may not want this change. Another reason is that Ethiopia is getting stronger. Ethiopia is building big dams and wants to use the Nile for itself. Egypt feels worried. It thinks it might lose power and water. Egypt also tries to put pressure on Ethiopia by working with Ethiopia's neighbors. Egypt hopes these friends will help make Ethiopia listen. Egypt wants to use the region to push Ethiopia instead of talking face to face. There is also a lot of mistrust and strong feelings in both countries. People in Egypt and Ethiopia do not trust each other. Ethiopia thinks Egypt wants to control everything. Egypt thinks Ethiopia is making decisions alone. Both countries are proud, so it is hard for them to talk. There is also pressure from other countries, like the West. Egypt asks the UN, the Arab League, and Western countries to help push Ethiopia. But Ethiopia does not like outside pressure. This makes direct talks even harder. This isn't just about two countries. The Nile flows through 11 nations, and if Egypt and Ethiopia don't reach an agreement, this conflict could drag the entire region into instability. The African Union has tried to mediate, so has the United Nations. But with mistrust, pride, and power in play, peace remains just out of reach. The Nile is not just a river, it's a lifeline, a symbol of power. And for Ethiopia and Egypt, it's the front line of a silent war. So, who really owns the Nile? No one. But unless both nations come to the table with fairness and cooperation, the river of life could turn into a river of conflict. What do you think? Is Ethiopia right to build the GERD? Should Egypt accept a new era of Nile cooperation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more deep stories from the Horn of Africa.